Social media didn't just show up in our lives, it exploded. In 2005, less than 5% of adults used it. Today, almost 5 billion people log in every single month. The average person spends nearly 2.5 hours a day scrolling, watching, and liking. And during that same time, something else has skyrocketed: anxiety, depression, loneliness. So it's a question we have to ask. Does social media actually make us unhappy? To figure this out, we need to look at what the data really says, not just headlines or opinions. One of the biggest findings comes from studies on teenagers. Research shows that teens who spend more than 5 hours a day on social media are about twice as likely to report depressive symptoms compared to those who spend less than an hour. That sounds pretty scary, but there's a crucial detail often left out. This is a correlation, not causation. It means heavy social media use and poor mental health often appear together. But one doesn't automatically cause the other. So researchers started asking a better question. What exactly is happening on these platforms that could affect our happiness? One of the strongest answers is social comparison. We humans have always compared ourselves to others, but social media puts that on a global scale. Instead of comparing yourself to a few people in your town, you're now up against thousands of perfectly curated live-edited photos, filtered bodies, and constant highlight reels. Study after study shows that seeing this idealized content increases feelings of envy, lowers self-esteem, and leads to dissatisfaction with our own lives. Think about it this way. One experiment had participants cut their social media use to just 30 minutes a day for 3 weeks. The results? They reported significant improvements in their well-being and felt less lonely and depressed compared to the group that kept scrolling as usual. Notice they didn't eliminate it completely, they just reduced it. That small change made a big difference. Another huge factor is how we use social media. Researchers split it into 2 types. First, there's passive use, just scrolling, watching, and consuming without interacting. Then there's active use, messaging, commenting, and actually connecting with people. The data clearly shows that passively consuming content is linked to increased loneliness and a more negative mood. On the other hand, actively engaging with others has neutral or even slightly positive effects. In other words, endlessly watching other people live their lives feels very different from actually interacting with them. And we can't forget about sleep. Research shows that using social media late at night seriously messes with our sleep. It leads to shorter, lower quality rest. And poor sleep is one of the strongest predictors of anxiety, low mood, and emotional instability. So in many cases, social media isn't directly causing unhappiness. It's quietly causing sleep deprivation, which then tanks our mental health. But here's where the story gets more complicated. When scientists account for things like personality, family background, and existing mental health conditions, the direct impact of social media gets a lot smaller. Some long-term studies found no real increase in depression based only on time spent scrolling. This points to something really important. Social media might not be creating unhappiness from scratch. It might just be amplifying what's already there. For someone who feels confident and supported offline, social media often has very little negative effect. But for someone who already feels isolated or anxious, it can make those feelings much, much worse. This explains why the same app can feel empowering to one person and completely toxic to another. And yet there's a strange contradiction. Almost half of all teenagers say social media has a mostly negative effect on their generation. Parents rank it as their #1 concern for their kids' mental health. Even when we don't feel personally harmed, we sense something is off. That's because social media doesn't just affect our mood, it changes our attention, our identity, and our self. It trains our brains to constantly seek validation and to measure our value in likes. So, does social media make us unhappy? The data says this. It can, especially when used passively and excessively. It can definitely worsen existing mental health struggles. But it can also help us maintain friendships, reduce isolation, and find support we might not have offline. The platform itself isn't the problem. Our behavior is. Our intention is. Our awareness is. Social media isn't the villain of our story, but it isn't neutral either. It's a magnifying glass. It accelerates our feelings and reflects our own insecurities back at us. So the real question isn't whether social media makes us unhappy, it's whether we're using it consciously or just letting it use us. Because happiness isn't lost in the scroll. It's lost when we stop paying attention to how the scroll makes us feel.